All right. He is Casey the Wino Cregan. There's a story behind that. He's on my left or my right, depending on how you're looking at this. JP Priester, allclemsontigers.com on my right as I look at the screen. It's Thursday night during Clemson baseball season. The 7-6 Clemson Tigers after two midweek wins this week. But let's go back first of all, fellas. Let's talk about last weekend in South Carolina series. Tigers played very, very well on Friday in a 5-2 win. Had a couple of long balls there and some good pitching. 4 2/3 shutout to start and good relief pitching. Now, Saturday started out well. A couple of good sizable leads. Bullpen couldn't hold it. And Sunday didn't turn out so well. Lost 2 out of 3 to the Gamecocks. Not unexpected, but once you win game one and you got a 7-3 lead in game two, your expectations kind of change a little bit. But they represented fairly well. There were still the same issues we've talked about the first few weeks. There were base running mistakes and the bullpen was problematic. But as Casey and I were talking about before you jumped on, JP, we're not down on this team. We knew it was going to be like this during the preseason. We had an idea that it was going to be up and down, some young guys, some transfers, some guys that have been around. I mean, the old saying that I used to hate, it is what it is, right?
Absolutely. I'm, to think there wouldn't be at least a few growing pains early under a new coaching staff would have been a little naive. Didn't really see the sweep, coming by UCF. But other than that, nothing's really surprised me. Thought the pitching would be a little bit better, but I'm not surprised that it's not. It hasn't been for years. I've said it many times. I don't think this pitching staff, the guys that were currently in the program before Eric Bakich arrived, I don't think those guys have been well developed. And I think now that we've gotten into the season, maybe Eric Bakich is realizing he's got a little bit more work to do than he realized in the preseason. I'm not sure I think he might have thought this team was a little bit better in fall ball in the preseason than they actually are. When we look at this team right now, it's a lineup with very little power. There's very little power in this lineup. The better pitcher, some of your better pitchers are hurt, and it's not a deep pitching staff at all. So when you get a couple of guys hurt and you don't have a deep staff, you're going to suffer on the back end. And we've seen Clemson's had major issues on the back end.
Beef?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I print out all these stats for these stat sheets that ClemsonTigers.com puts out and the opponents put out just to kind of gain a 30,000-foot view of the team. And it's telling to me because the only person on the pitching side that is notable, it says Austin Gordon is the only one above the dotted line, meaning that's the only guy that actually has been a true starter. And I think that speaks volumes. Just JP hit it right on the head. There has been no development from a pitching side in how many years? Probably since the last couple of years of Leggett, really, and since Andrew C. came in. And unfortunately, I think being the sunshine pumper that I am, I think with the snap of fingers and Jimmy Belanger coming in, I thought it was going to be all fixed. Well, it's not. And so you're going to get some really good outings, I think, at times, and some really not good outings. And I think they just got to keep throwing these guys out there and hoping that some sort of development can happen. But, yeah, I'm not down on this team at all. I think JP said it again. The lack of power is something that's a little surprising just because of how Monty was. But 10 home runs through 13 games is probably towards the bottom of the ACC. And Blake Wright hit, 2 of those in opening day. So, or 3. How many did he have? He had at least 2. But it's a work in progress, and I think I really love the kids. Like, it's not a like. I love the kids, the Canarellas, the Gavin Abrams. I mean, even some of the pitchers. Joe Allen looked awesome the other night. I thought if he can get his control down, he's the next Chris Benson. He keeps the ball low in the zone, very heavy ball, as they say, and I just really enjoy watching the kids play. And it's going to be one of those years that you're going to I'm going to have to enjoy the wins, the highs, and kind of fight through the lows.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good segue. Beef. Perfect. The 2-game sweep here in the midweek. East Tennessee State 4-1 and Presbyterian 5-3. Starters didn't do much again, but the bullpen 13 in the third innings and 1 run over those 2 games. Obviously, the competition was different than it was over the weekend with South Carolina. I think we all realize that. But they did what they needed to do to win the games. And Casey mentioned Joe Allen. He had a good outing. But the other guy that caught my eye, Nathan Dvorsky, who we had not seen all season. And I forgot how many innings he pitched. I think it was 4, maybe 2. Oh, it was Lindley who had 4 against East Tennessee State. So Dvorsky pitched 2 innings and looked good. He looked sharp. Now it's only 2 innings, and it was Presbyterian, a team who can score some runs, as we'll get to in a minute when we preview Georgia State, when Beef previews Georgia State. But Casey mentioned it. Like some of the pitchers, Cantarella's hit in his first 13 games as a Clemson Tiger, and JP was on him from like I think his first or second at bat. And the guy's hit in every game. Wright's hitting, but not much really from the team, as JP alluded to. 286 as a team with the 10 home runs you guys talked about. Dill, Hoffman, Olenchuk are struggling. Olenchuk gave up 2 or 3 home runs the other day, and he gave up the only outs he got, I think, were 3 feet from being home runs against South Carolina. He had not a great day. But as I said, 13 in the third innings in the 2 midweek games from the bullpen, only 1 earned run. So you take your positives where you can find them, and I'm taking that as a positive, JP.
Yeah, I think I think this coaching staff is still trying to figure out the best roles for some of these pitchers. I think Jackson Lindley's kind of been a godsend in that bullpen. He's been one guy they have been able to rely on consistently. And the freshman yesterday, how'd you say his name?
Dvorsky.
I got to watch at that game a little bit yesterday, and the parts I watched was while he was pitching, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. Somebody didn't really expect to contribute this year, and here he is throwing 2 innings in a midweek game, and he looked, from what I could tell, pretty sharp. Again, I was just watching at it from the football facility, but you got to I think once this coaching staff starts figuring out where some of these guys fit in best, middle relief, back end, and get some of these guys healthy. I mean, not having Willie Weiss right now is really hurting this team. But you're having to rely on some of these freshmen like Joe Allen, who Casey talked about a minute ago, and you're going to get some – I mean, as good as Joe Allen's been, you got to expect at least a little bit of inconsistency. He's a freshman. He's got great stuff. He doesn't have perfect command right now. So, I mean, you said it earlier. One of y'all said it earlier, the ups and downs. I just think we're going to have some ups and downs as we go through the season.
I am guessing on Dvorsky. It looks pretty straightforward to me. So I don't, who knows? It may be something crazy for all I know, but that's what I'm guessing. Beef, your thoughts?
I just love 32 of 39 in stolen bases. I mean, I've had all these prayers that I had before the season that I was hopeful for. That was one that I thought I saw from Bakich in his previous years, that he's going to be aggressive on the base paths. We know that Clemson's going to run into some outs. That's just the MO recently with maybe some of the players on the team. But 32 of 39 in stolen bases through 13 games again. You're averaging almost 3 steals a game. I love it. I really do.
Well, I was thinking earlier today, Beef, you mentioned the still have some issues on the bases. And I was thinking, I don't remember if it was Oliver Purnell or Brownell when he first got there, and they asked him, how do you improve your team's free throw percentage? And he said, recruit better free throw shooters. So maybe Bakich needs to recruit some better base runners, because they're still having some issues there. They have some pieces, as you guys said. They've got some young players: Cantarella, Dvorsky, Joe Allen, some of the other guys. it seems like every year somebody comes out of nowhere. Lindley was one of those guys, right? A few years ago, he like didn't pitch till like the 20th game of the season, and he came out of nowhere one day, and probably in a midweek game, and now he's a staple on this staff. So he's a veteran on a young staff. 7-6, up and down. Now this weekend they play Georgia State, who Casey's done his due diligence on. I just looked at their runs scored and noticed they had scored double-digit runs in 7 of 12 games. And they just finished last weekend a 3-game series with Presbyterian. They took 2 out of 3. And Beef, you said they scored 20 runs in one of those games against Presbyterian. So apparently this team can hit. Tell us about the Georgia State Panthers. I think
the Georgia State Panthers, they're coming in at 9-4. I don't know, you missed a game, but somewhere in there. But
probably last night. Yeah.
They opened this season against Cincinnati, a Big East team, or they were a Big East team. I'm not sure where they are in baseball. I think they're still Big East. They lost one, or they won one on opening day, lost the next 3. They then played
forfeit, right?
That's the Brown. There was a Brown game, wasn't that? They were up 3-2, and it was forfeit.
No, it was Cincinnati. There was a bench clearing brawl.
Is that what the forfeit was for? I was diving in.
I think both of them were charged with a forfeit.
Wow. Okay.
They both suspended or something. I never could get the full story on that.
Well, they were both they were winning at the time 3-2 when that forfeit happened. They've beaten Brown. They swept 4 games with Brown. They beat Alabama State. They took 2 of 3 from Presbyterian. They lost the opener Presbyterian 6-5 and then put 20 runs on them the next night. Team that common opponent there with Clemson. And then just Tuesday night put 14 runs on Kennesaw State. Their likely pitchers are 2 seniors and a junior, and all right-handers. Ryan Watson is their ace, senior right-hander, 2.77 ERA. Then they go to senior right-hander Joseph Brandon, who's a 1.38 ERA, and then Mason Patel with a 2.87. He's the junior right-hander. Is it wrong? Are they going with Cameron?
Brandon Watson and Cameron Landry.
Okay. That was my guess. See, the third one. Patel was when they were doing 4-game series, and they didn't have it out yet. And Patel pitched this past weekend, and Cameron did not. So there you go. Thank you for correcting me.
They just sent it out not too long ago.
Is it Cameron Landry's going? Okay, he's also a junior right-hander as well, I believe. But yeah, so they led offensively. They got some sticks here. Senior outfielder Max Ryerson is hitting .439, slugging .780. He's got 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. Junior outfielder Dylan Strickland. He's also a DH at times. He's hitting .438, 750 slugging. He's got 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. Their leadoff hitter is Cameron Jones, who's also a junior left-hander. So he will pitch. He'll DH on days that he pitches. You may see him this weekend as well, not starting, obviously. He's got 319, 14 of 16 stolen bases. And then they found this kid, JoJo Jackson. He's a sophomore outfielder. He's hitting .355, 935 slugging with 5 home runs and RBIs. So he's a guy that didn't start the season in the starting lineup, but has come on recently and has started 9 games and hitting .395. So 19 position players have played this season. 15 pitchers have had at least 3 appearances, including Zach Ottinger, who leads the team with 6, followed by Davis Chastain and Aiden McAllister with 5. You'll probably see those guys a couple times this weekend. This is a good team that Clemson's going to be playing against, and it's going to be a nice test. And I was hopeful that for a 3-game sweep, but I'm not sure that happens.
Kevron checks in and says, good evening. Good evening, Kevron. Good to see you. And Wayne Allen checks in and says, go Tigers, enjoy the show. Good to see you, Wayne. If you have any questions for the guys, drop them in the chat, and we'll be sure to get to them. I'd be happy with 2 out of 3. And my mantra this year is I just want to see them play well, right? And they've done that sometimes, and they've failed to do that sometimes. Crazy guys, we're a quarter of the way through the season. Almost. Friday's game will be 1/4. You know, you're getting old when you're like, what a baseball season get here, and you look up and you're a quarter of the way through the season. So hopeful a couple of wins this week. And next week, I think Tuesday is the College of Charleston. So
It
I
is.
did see right before that Clemson was going with, I just drew a blank on the starting pitcher's name.
Gordon Smith, TBA.
Austin Gordon, Tristan Smith, and Mr. TBA. Hopefully, I don't know if you've heard anything, JP. I know you've been focused on football. Have you heard anything about Ryan Ammons and maybe they're holding him for Duke next weekend?
I would assume that the hope is to have him back by Duke. Absolutely. If you've seen him in the dugout or anything, he's not wearing a sling, no brace or anything. He looks fine. Eric Back has termed it as a forearm strain. Said they got good news when they did the MRI. We'll see if we see Caden Grice this weekend. I think he's in the doghouse again, if I'm not mistaken, after yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I never did. Maybe one of y'all can fill me in on the full details of how that played out because I didn't actually see it happen. But
I texted a Beef and the fellows when it happened. He was on first. I think it was a hit and run. The batter missed the sign. He stopped about 2/3 of the way to second. Didn't try and slide. Didn't go through the motions. Turned to the batter, threw his hands up, shaking his head, and next inning, Billy Amick was at first base. So I mentioned it. I thought I didn't know what had happened at first, but then I realized when they were talking about somebody missed a sign, whatever. So I said, I mean, think about this. He was going to be the starting pitcher on Sunday against Carolina. He gets thrown out of Saturday's game by drawing the line at home plate twice. He did it the first time, and they didn't throw him out. And then I saw him and the home plate umpire laughing later in the game after a mound visit. And then 5 minutes later, a guy throws him out of the game. And the calls were not great. I admit that, but whatever. That's college baseball. You kind of have to get used to it, right? And then I saw that from him. He's got to be frustrated. We're talking about a lack of power. That guy was hitting balls 9 miles last year. I mean, he's still striking out a lot. He hasn't hit anything this year. I mean, he has 1 home run, I think. But, I mean, they're all been soft contact. And my guy there, Ron Smith, the old Furman coach, he was so proud of him for choking up in those first 2 games. I'm going, he's 6'20", 417 pounds. He should be hitting the ball 9 miles, and you're bragging on him for choking up. I think he's in a bad spot.
No. I do too. And listening to Eric Backett Sunday after the game, he was asked if Grice might miss more than the 1 game. And he wouldn't go into detail, and he wouldn't say. He just said he might. That it was going to be handled internally. But obviously he started the very next game. But Backus made it sound like he was having he was not happy with multiple players and their body language toward the umpires. He said they are better than they don't need. A couple of bad calls shouldn't cost them that much. They're better than that. They shouldn't be down on the umpires that much. And he was not happy at all. It wasn't just Grice. I think it was a couple other guys, but he made it sound like it was a possibility Grice might do nothing but pitch the rest of the way. If you listen to the way he said it, sometimes it's not about what you say, it's what you don't say. But obviously he did. I mean, if that's what he meant, he changed his mind because he was hitting yesterday. But I would imagine that Grice is probably deep in the doghouse now.
Beef?
Yeah, that's just something you don't do. Do it in the dugout. Do it in the locker room. Don't do it for that. It's just that overt. It's not a good look. And I feel for the guy because there was so much pressure put on him, probably by himself. After Beer leaves, he comes in. He's highly touted. He's top player in South Carolina, and comes in and makes a splash, and then kind of has tried to be the guy, I guess. Maybe put too much pressure on himself and hasn't really performed in the last 2 years. Obviously, he hits those moonshot home runs, but he's been striking out so much. It's got to be frustrating for him. But don't show up your own guys. And as a former umpire, I would have run him too, but probably after the first one. But especially after the South Carolina catcher was arguing at seemingly every call Friday night. Like, I don't know, as a former player too, I would have probably tried to get on the really good side of the umpires by not doing stuff like that, just to kind of, maybe cheat a call or two for going your way instead of, I don't know. Maybe that's just something I would do as an umpire too. If a guy kind of gussied up to me after the opponent was talking trash to me, I probably would give him a call or two or an extra ball length, ball width outside.
Well, especially as a catcher, right? Because you got to, you're going to come to bat, but you're also sit there for 150 pitches that game. So go ahead, JP.
That umpiring crew over the weekend was terrible. They were terrible, and not just it wasn't one sided. They were terrible, and it seemed like the balls and strikes got worse from Friday to Sunday. I mean, it was bad. Sunday was particularly bad in my opinion. I thought the first base umpire was bad. I think it was Saturday. But it was not very good. Probably, I don't know, one of the worst umpired series I've seen in a while. But back to Grice, I get it, man. He's got to be frustrated, but he's a junior on a team full of young kids, and he's supposed to be one of your leaders, man. He just can't do those kind of things.
Get thrown out of the game before you're supposed to be the starting pitcher in the rubber game of the biggest rivalry in college baseball, or at least one of them. Back to the umpires. I am going to try to make it to Saturday this week before I tweet college baseball umpires, man. And of course, you were talking about the first base umpire, JP. I mean, Backes used his challenges in the second inning, right? He was done by the second inning because of that first base umpire. Now they didn't overturn either one of them, but I was like, what are we doing? Why are we going to a review? I hate the college baseball reviews, and it's not because they review them, it's because of how long it takes. If you're at Boston College, yeah, they got a nice new stadium, but I think the video review is like behind the left field stand somewhere. So you got a 68-year-old man that has to run 100 yards, watch film, take some oxygen, come back, tell us what happened. But anyway, I hate the college rule. The review, because they take so long, and they have in the Carolina game, they had like 45-second discussion before they decide to review it. Casey, tell me, you're a umpire. What is that all about?
We didn't have reviews, so I don't know.
I mean, what are they talking about?
Yeah,
you go in to review it. What's there to discuss?
Yeah, I don't know. They always, you're supposed to ask your partner if they had a better angle, and quite honestly, you don't want to overrule your partner because it's pretty much a moot conversation.
Now that you mentioned that, one of the times that they met right before it seemed like they were going to do a review, they never went and reviewed it. So
yeah, and I can understand that.
That's how it used to be before review. I mean, it was like, did you see it better than I did? No, okay, then I have to stick with my call.
I mean, I understand I understand that logic, but there's 3 guys or 4 guys, and you're only asking 3 of them because one of them made the call. It don't take 45 seconds. Yes or no? Did you see something I didn't see? Right? They were there for a long time, and then of course, the 4-minute review where they have to go to Pickens County Library to look at the film or whatever.
Microfiche.
It is too long. And after watching MLB spring training games that go about 2 hours and 26 minutes now, college baseball is sometimes tough to watch. All right, I told you guys I'd get you out of here in 30 minutes, and I appreciate your time. Casey, you got anything else?
No, I just hope that they keep progressing. 7-6 doesn't look good on paper at all, but especially for this proud Clemson program. But keep chugging away to winning 2 out of 3 in series is the way to go the rest of the way. That's the hope, and hope you get a little better occasionally. So,
well, I think we better get out of here because I just saw Ryan jump off the bed behind you.
Mom's home,
Oh, okay. All right. You can find Casey's work on rubberandtherock.com occasionally, and Jason's work on allclemsontigers.com. For Casey the Beef Cregan and Jason Priester of allclemsontigers.com, I'm Marty Coleman. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next Thursday. But fellas, in 2 weeks, it's going to be the Sweet 16. I'll be in Vegas on Thursday night. So, JP, you get a night off. At least from us. I don't know about everybody else. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.